Hey, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this investor webinar for Kindship. And as you'll probably know, this is our second investor webinar for the campaign as it's coming to a close this week. This really was a final opportunity that we wanted to present to you to come in and ask your final questions about the company, about the business, and to really just share the message of the business right before the investment offer closes at 10 p.m. tomorrow. I'll throw it around to everybody to do some quick introductions. And then we also want to just go into the details of exactly what Kindship represents and really what the business is all about and what this journey involves. So I guess I'll start from the top left in my corner. Andreas, over to you.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're just on mute. We can't hear you.
Ladies first. Ladies first, Sandy. Yes, sir.
Sure, I'll go first then. Yep. Hi, everyone. My name's Sandy. I'm one of the co-founders of Kindship. I'm a mum of two, and why that's relevant is it really informs why I'm so passionate about what we're doing here at Kindship. So I thought I'd give you a bit of background on me today. So my daughter Imogen, she is almost 12, and she was diagnosed as autistic when she was 2.5, and also with a moderate intellectual disability. So we've been navigating this journey now, be coming up to 10 years next year. I can't believe that. Time flies. And look, along that journey, and anyone who is a parent of a child with a disability will understand that it's like a roller coaster and an adventure and all of the things thrown into one. So in the beginning, to be really frank with you, it was really lonely. It was really isolating. I felt like no one understood. I felt like I was the only one. And along that journey, I've realized the value of being part of a community. So about 4 years ago, Steph and I built an online community for parents navigating this world of parenting a child with a disability. And we're really determined to create a really positive solutions-based culture within that community, which we've been told, and we kind of know that is a little bit different to some of the other communities that are out there. We don't want to get stuck in the wallow, and we know that there's going to be challenges that come up, but we've always been really, focused on let's get those emotions out there, and then how can we help? How can we move forward? So that has been kind of the inspiration for the culture of Kindship and what we're all about. So I'm also a PE teacher by trade, so I have an education degree. I'm also a graduate certificate in specialist inclusive education. So it's kind of my passion is really about how can we include everybody in this education discussion. And I love making the most of people. I love building people and building teams, and have been helping out Steph with our volunteer crew. We've got over 90 volunteers in Kindship now, who are all parents themselves, which is super exciting. And my role as we roll out the Kindship wallet will be really to nurture our new staff and team. And I'm super excited about that because they are all going to be parents of children with disabilities, and will be walking this road too. So they'll be, navigating the NDIS journey, and they will know what it's like to walk in our clients' shoes because they will have been doing the same thing. So I'm super pumped to get that part of Kindship rolling out, and excited to answer any questions you guys have today.
Fantastic. Steph?
Awesome. So hi guys, I am Steph. So I am another one of the co-founders, and I'm head of community at Kindship. So a bit of context. So my family's journey started in 2018. So my daughter was diagnosed with autism. But being her mum has really taught me so much about the power of having a village and being surrounded by people who just get it. So in the early stages of her diagnosis, we had no context around autism, like no understanding about neurodiversity. And the unknown at that time felt incredibly scary to me. There was like a big, abyss in the future that I just had no idea about. So, and I also realized there was like an immense lack of support for families. And I would turn to YouTube vlogs just to gain a sense of solace. Like I remember waking up sometimes in the middle of the night frantically, it was almost just like looking for that support and not really knowing where to turn. So it kind of ties in where Sandy mentioned when we connected. I was in that very vulnerable early stage, and we were able, well, I felt like at that time for me, I was able to channel that into something really incredible with her support, and together here we are today, right? So what a ride it's been. But I suppose like just knowing that firsthand experience has helped me feel so passionate about wanting to help other families, and really bring other families up for air. And that's why I'm so passionate about working with our community, with our kind folk, and really like nurturing them to be, you know, the best they can be. Yeah, so I'm really excited to answer any questions and to be here with you guys today.
Fantastic. Tara?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am a mum to 3. My middle daughter, Willow, she has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy and autism. She was actually born at 29 weeks, which was a big shock, and the shocks just kept coming after that. We were told at 2 weeks that she had brain damage, which would lead to this long list of disabilities. And we got the official cerebral palsy diagnosis at 7 months. And the same as what Steph and Sandy said, it really, although I knew it was a possibility, I'd never felt so shocked and alone. And I just didn't know where to start, who to turn to. I wanted to be proactive and help and do all the things for her, but I actually did not know what to do. When she was about 1, I started sharing our journey on Instagram, purely just so family could keep up with us, what we were doing. And having a background in education and early childhood, I started sharing therapy ideas that we did at home. And before I knew it, it just blew up. And I had so many families all across the world following along and thanking me for sharing, because it wasn't just me, like it was people all across the world that needed insight and help and guidance. So I think once I started sharing, that's when my acceptance journey actually started. I thought I accepted the journey right at that 7-month mark, but turns out it was once I started connecting, I accepted it, and I felt this sense of empowerment, and I was speaking to families, which is why I'm so passionate about Kindship, because I know how much that transformed our journey. It took away the grief and the overwhelming feelings to something of positivity, and I could see past like the worries and concerns that I was feeling. So we ended up sharing our therapy ideas in an ebook, and that's been shared all across the world now. And my role in Kindship, I am head of marketing. So I am in charge of just getting the word out there, but also producing content that connects with families. So they can look at their phone and be like, oh, it's just like she gets it, they get it, I'm not alone. And also putting together like thoughtful resources. We have a magazine that we put together, which I often think like, oh, imagine when I got that diagnosis, if someone handed me this magazine, and it would have just been this soft landing platform, and let me know that, wow, there's an app, there's a whole community of parents just waiting to connect and help me. So yeah, extremely passionate about everything that Kindship offers, and yeah, happy to answer any questions as well.
Fantastic. And Andreas?
Happy Wednesday, everyone. And so my name is Andreas, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer. So I oversee everything technology and operations. And my story is a bit different. So I originally grew up in Lithuania, and my mother fell in love with a Dutch man around when I was 11. We moved to the Netherlands, and that's where I kind of discovered the internet. I just started building things really very innocent as a child. I was just trying to build things that I thought were cool for my friends, and ended up building a social network which grew to 50,000 members in the Netherlands. This was pre-Facebook. Actually, MySpace killed my project, so that was like before, like that was a while back. So then fast. I don't know if anyone remember the times when people used to buy ringtones. If anyone is old enough to remember, people used to buy ringtones.
Yeah, definitely.
So as a 13-year-old kid, I was selling $8,000 worth of ringtones every month. So that was an interesting start. in my entrepreneurial journey. And fast forward, in my mid-20s, I was living as a digital nomad, and while traveling in Thailand, I met Sama. So my beautiful wife and our CEO here at Kindship. So what I've learned from Sama, so Sama has been working as a speech therapist for over 10 years, specialized with kids on the autism spectrum. And she was actually speech therapist to the school where Sandy's daughter, and so that's kind of how we're all interconnected. And one of the things that I've noticed, and that what Sama told, is that she basically said she learned more about speech therapy by talking to moms like Sandy than what she learned at the university. And that's what's kind of the start of the idea, is like how powerful would it be if we would create like a safe space for parents to connect and inform and empower each other. So that's what's kind of, that's kind of my story. And what I'm really excited about is really about the opportunity of crowdsourcing the wisdom that our community has. And we are doing that within our existing social network. But I'm really excited with the Kindship wallet, because once those invoices go through our system, as you can imagine, there's so much valuable information in each invoice, which therapies parents access, which services parents access. So crowdsourcing that wisdom with a kind of community layer, technology layer, and making that really accessible to every family in Australia. Like that's what I'm really excited about. So looking forward to any questions that may arise. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, as everybody's been saying, this session is really for you to be able to ask as many questions as you wish to, leading up to the close of the investment offer at 10 p.m. tomorrow. One thing which I think that I'd really love to touch on, which has been a theme of the Kindship campaign and really how you're building the business, is that you don't really need to raise a lot of money to be able to get to profitability. You've talked about getting to 1,000 users and effectively being profitable from there, and it being sort of your last raise. Do you want to talk about that in a little bit more detail, really? Because I think that there's so much substance to that as a business and as an operation as you grow.
I'm happy to take on that one.
Yeah.
So if we look at our wider network, so we're already reaching tens of thousands of families in Australia. We've grown from 100 active parents in January. When we launched in April, we had 500 active parents, and in October we had 2,500 active parents on the app. If we look at weekly active parents, we're seeing parents getting roughly 1 hour of supports on the app per week. So we've created really a meaningful, safe environment for our families. In the last couple of weeks, we've also started testing some performance marketing channels. So we've actually did small tests across Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Search. And we've also discovered that we can roughly get one app installed between $5 and $6. So with the rollout of the Kindship wallet, which comes kind of a new plan comes with a setup fee of roughly $230 and then a monthly fee of over $100. So between kind of $5 to $6 per app install and those fees, there's kind of a lot of space to onboard, grow the community and onboard new community. And just a couple of days ago, we talked with local plan managers, actually 2 accountants that have a plan management service with over 3,000 participants. Both of them accountants, actually both of them invested $10,000 each yesterday. And they confirmed that, cash flow should fuel our growth down the track. Of course, we can't predict the future, but we're very optimistic that this is most likely going to be our last raise. Besides this race, we also have, there's some, I think it's because research commercialization grant from the federal government up to 500K that's available, and also the R&D tax refund. So yeah, overall, we are hopeful that this will fuel our growth going forward.
Yeah, fantastic.
Can I add, Robin, if that's
of course,
right?
Please do.
Well, Andreas was talking about numbers. I also think, like, from a qualitative perspective, like Steph and I interviewed dozens of parents who are currently accessing plan management or self-managed NDIS plans. And like 98% of them were unhappy with their current experience. And for us to then be able to provide a plan manager who understands the journey, who is navigating the NDIS themselves, who understands the complexity of life and what's going on. And even just like kind of mentioning that to the people that we interviewed, they were like, oh my God, this sounds like awesome. And when we look at the surveys that have been done in our app, like, you know, up to 80% of people are saying, yes, I would be very interested. So, and they're the people who are in our target market who are already in our space. So, those numbers look really promising. And I think from a qualitative perspective, being able to solve some of the problems that our families are experiencing that aren't being solved already is going to be a massive asset.
Yeah, awesome. And a question here. Great work, guys. With your success, what are your predictions for new entrants into this space, offering new/improved platforms?
Would you mind repeating that question again?
Yeah, sure. So with your success, what are your predictions for new entrants into this space? Essentially, what are your predictions around any other entrants into this space? Is maybe you can answer that with saying what you think you're doing very differently to really overcome competitors coming into this space, and really just what's your point of difference as a business? I think, given a lot of your attention in this space, it's probably natural to think that there are going to be others who are going to go down this route. But given your experience, but also very lived experience as a business and your community, they're probably likely to stick with you. But addressing competitors in this space is definitely something that's going to be really important.
Yeah. So yesterday, actually, I had a meeting with one of the ladies on the board of NDIS, and she very much agreed with my statement saying that 99% of the industry, well, look, NDIS is created to put the participants first, but the reality is that 99% of the industry is just purely, providing services and making sure they're compliant. The industry, I would say, is majority owned by, lawyers, accountants. So I think anyone that's going to be successful in the future, first of all, that I think they have to be families with lived-in experience, just like we are. And they need to also be the ones that put families at the heart of the design of basically the entire user experience. And that's basically what we do with Kindship. We're first and foremost a community, and kind of we put the community at the heart of everything that we do. So, whenever within the Kindship quality, you'll be looking at, a parent would be looking at what kind of services can I access in my local area, or what kind of therapies are available for the type of goals I'm trying to achieve for my child. They will be looking what other parents are already doing. So it's not going to be Kindship saying, we believe this is good for a child. It's going to be actually other parents informing each other on what is best. So really putting families at the heart of everything, that's probably the recipe for success, would be my guess. Would be curious what you ladies think.
I really think that creating a social network, whilst it sounds easy, it's actually really hard work. And there has been years and years of trust and relationships and community building that's gone into creating what we have at Kindship. It's not easy to just create that instantly. So whilst, another plan management company could come in and employ parents of children with disabilities and have the lived experience, they're not then going to have the crowd-sourced insight that we're going to have, which I think really will be a point of difference. I would say daily there's a post in our app talking about, like, where should I go for this service, or who uses a speech therapist in this area. So being able to provide just a very efficient way of getting data for your particular area, being able to know what the waitlist times are, being able to talk to that parent and be like, which therapist do you use there? Like, what would you recommend? Like, who would be best for this? Is going to be something that's very unique. So I feel like that would be very hard to duplicate if that's what a client's looking for.
And can I just say, like, just quickly,
Of
for a
course.
very long time, like, obviously, like Sandy and I have been like cultivating our like beautiful community and that trust there. So just echoing what she was saying. But now we have an opportunity in front of us to actually support their needs on an emotional level, on like a social level, on a, you know, financial level when it comes to NDIS, like it's real impact. And I suppose like that kind of recipe all in one is where the magic is going to happen. And that's only possible because of this campaign and our team. So I'm really excited to see, the next chapter ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. No, fantastic. And I think it came up a lot in the last webinar that we did, where there were a lot of questions around concerns in relation to trust on the app, and obviously people saying things. If you look at social media and the big platforms out there, they definitely aren't. That I feel like year after year they've become less and less trusted. Yes, there are groups out there, and yes, they have their own sort of policies for what isn't accepted. But then again, I think we've always come back to the point, which is that users aren't really that protected when it does come to their experiences with these big social media platforms themselves. I think it was such an incredible, point and topic to touch on in the last webinar. It's probably relevant to pick up again in this one, just in relation to sort of what you've found has worked for you, what kind of features you've put in place, and really what you think is absolutely essential moving forward for the business, because your social media sort of aspect of the business is probably a huge part of what's driving user engagement and going to get people to be very excited about the business moving forward and your products and services.
Yeah, so
Steph,
I'm
I was going to say you're the person to answer the question.
I'll kick off briefly, but I suppose like from a moderation perspective, we've actually worked really closely with our amazing kind folk volunteers, and we continue to do that. We will continue to do that, just because safety is so important. So like, and what I kind of love about it is that they've been there with us from the beginning of like creating and cultivating a culture that doesn't really accept anything other than like respect, support, and like, propelling people forward. And I do understand, like, obviously, as we grow and as this app expands, that will come with its own sets of challenges. But I feel like with what we're creating here, we're more than up to making sure that that's supported. So, and they're amazing. So really, they're constantly providing feedback to us. They're very good at what they do, aren't they, Sandy? They're all over it, like incredible. If any of them are tuning in now or happen to watch later, you are amazing. So yeah, I feel super grateful to have that, really like those real insights constantly supporting us.
I think too, like it's important to mention, like our community guidelines and culture has been co-designed with our community. So like they're setting the standards about what they will tolerate and what they want to see, and even like the features that they want to see in the app. So whenever we release something new, we will test that and get feedback from our community, whether that serves them or whether something needs to be changed. So we're in this constant process of collaboration with them. And like, I just think that's really powerful because we're actually providing exactly what our community need. In terms of safety too, like our onboarding process, like there's like it's a decent onboarding to make sure that we're getting the right people into the app as well. So, and that there's a specific community that we're supporting. So, and everything's tailored for that community. So, and I would echo what Steph says about our moderation team there. On top of it, they're awesome.
Fantastic.
Do you want to talk about the tech, Andreas?
I just want to talk about, so I think culture is of course the heart of it, but incentives matter a lot as well, right? So if we look at other social media platforms, what is their predominant incentive? Like glue you to the screen and serve as many ads as possible, right? That's basically what they're optimizing for, right? Luckily, we have NGIS. So, while we see parents that use the app weekly, they utilize the app 1 hour per week. That's, if we can reduce that to 20 minutes per week and add as much impact, that's what we care about. So in that sense, unlike Facebook that kind of just wants you to glue you to the screen, we're all about impact. So our business model, thanks to NGIS, actually allows us to focus on impact. And I think that helps them also kind of is interconnected with the culture that Sandy and Steph and everybody is working on as well. Just one thing I do want to say, Robin, just what you said, like the community and the kind of the social networking aspect. We know that that is of course kind of the magnet for growth, and that we'll see there's major growth potential there. However, I also want to say is that all 266,000 NDS participants, 18 years old and under, mostly represented by parents, all of them need to have their plan managed, right? So we also see the plan management bit. So people that maybe don't necessarily recognize, are not yet ready to recognize the fact that they need that peer-to-peer support, right? We see plan management and people coming onto Kindship essentially for plan management. We see that equally as an opportunity to fuel our growth. So those parents that maybe don't recognize the importance of community just yet, we see them coming for the Kindship wallet, and having then private conversations with parents, asking how was that music therapy for your child, or like have those little private conversations. So we see the Kindship wallet equally as a kind of growth opportunity for the community as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've had a question here around your offer document indicating an average 10-week retention rate, so near enough 50%. Do you see this retention rate increasing?
Yes, it's obviously, it's a priority, right? Like at the moment, it's actually really unfortunate to see that some parents are dropping off, right? So as someone that overseeing the product experience, I see there's opportunity for improvement there. So we're looking at ways, how can we simplify the onboarding, and there's a lot of moving parts, and I think retention is very fluctuating. So if we see someone comes in from, if Tara would tell someone, let's say, to come on another parent to come on the app, we see that that reflects on the retention than someone that maybe their GP tells them to come on the app. So each channel also has different retention. It's something that's very, very fluctuating. And if anything, to be honest, like if you look at Instagram, when Instagram started, it used to be a photo editing app. So there was no community, right? And people came to the app to just edit their pictures, add some cool filters to the app, right? So there's this thing of like, be a tool first and like have a community kind of second. Like that's their approach. I mean, we have the community first and adding the tool. So we're also seeing a lot of people might just simply come for the tool, and that would help fuel the retention as well. So the Kindship wallet should also fuel the improvement in retention.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think also there's a element of teaching people a new tech as well, and we're so ingrained in some other like options that it is a learning process doing that. And like whilst that retention after 10 weeks looks like that, we're also finding people come back in later on, and something might have come up in their life, or they just haven't literally had time to do social media, and then they're like, oh, I've got to get back in there. So like as Andre said, like it is fluctuating as well in that respect. Sorry, Tara, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add, like Andre said, like we add new features. I think we've just added a local group chat, and I think some may come in and it is a new tech and they have to learn it. So what's great about the local group chat is they're automatically connected with people so they can ask questions. And like Sandy said as well, I think some people, especially early on in their journey, might join and they could be just had the diagnosis and not ready to connect. They might go away for a little bit and get their head around all those appointments and everything, and then they usually do come back. Because they seek that community. So
yeah, fantastic. And we've just got one last question here. One other has just come in, so we will cover off both of them. Jason here has asked a question which I remember seeing in the webinar previously. Are you focusing on early intervention or support for all ages on the spectrum?
Definitely all ages. So, and I think what's great about the app is there is something for everyone. So I see myself as if when we were first starting out in early intervention, I would have been on there for the feed because you're just seeking advice and answers and tips from parents, whereas now it's more about connecting and finding community and finding people to be friends with Willow, and there's audio rooms. So there are so many different features on the app, regardless of what sort of journey you are in. Linked to everyone, really.
I think it's also interesting to note, like, because obviously I speak to a lot of new parents coming onto the app, and there are a lot of parents coming on who have just gone, I've just had a diagnosis, or we're just walking this journey. There is that early intervention context there. So because I think people are scared, and perhaps an app in their hand is an easy way to just start to connect the dots. However, it is really important to note that, like, there's so much that can be learnt from those ahead in the journey. Like, I learned from Sandy consistently. She's like, and other people in our community, like, and that's really powerful. That's empowering for me, and hopefully for her as well, to be able to share those experiences. So.
And I learned from the people who have been before me. So now we're starting to go through the whole teenagehood, and I'm like, oh, help. I was like, I ran an audio room, autism and puberty, help me please. Like, and we get parents who are further along the journey who can come along and share that. So.
Yeah, fantastic. And Danielle's question here is, this is an alternative model of plan management. What certainty do you have that this will align with NDIS compliance requirements? I think you've been through this quite a while ago, so yeah, I'm happy to hand this over to anybody to answer.
So we have beautiful Julie, which I've just mentioned her name, but we kind of have someone who we see as one of our strategic hires, who has seen the social service, Australia's social services and the AS inside out. She's also a mom, and she knows what it is to represent her own child in the tribunal, but she also knows what it is to represent the government in case there's a lot of complex cases. So she's really able to balance, I guess, the stakeholders. And often when we look at legal documents, there's always room for interpretation, right? And she is gifted to really understand, what the government's perspective, but also thanks to her lived-in experience, also the family's perspective. So in that sense, I think we've got the right people on the team to tick all of the compliance boxes.
Also, I think in terms of the technological side, there are plan management companies who are already using tech, like we will be using for invoicing and stuff like that. So that's already happening. They don't have the other side that we have, but
that's actually really good. Sorry to interrupt you, Sandy, but that's actually a really good point. So we've partnered up with Credibility Systems. So they have a backend plan management compliance purely for the the processing of an invoice and reconciliation of an invoice, and making sure that the payments can happen very fast. So they have nearly $1 billion worth of NDS payments going through their system. So that's what we were going to be tapping into in the first couple of years, in terms of that particular aspect of the plan management. We'll kind of utilize their system. We won't be building anything custom specific for that. We'll just tap into their backend and of course create a custom user experience within the mobile app for the parent. So they won't even notice what we use in the backend basically. But yeah, so we'll be tapping into existing technology partners of NDIS essentially to facilitate the compliance as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And the final question you have is, do you have any major shareholders in the business? The cap table is available, by the way, so in the capital structure section of the offer document, which I can point anybody towards. The question itself was asked anonymously, so I can't send it to you directly unless you just state exactly who you are, but I'm happy to point out exactly where you can access this in the offer document itself. But Andreas, I'm happy for you to answer that one as well if you want to.
Yeah, so we've been very strategic with who we wanted to take on board as our investors. So one of the largest investors, which you can find in the offer document. So we've got actually South Australian government's venture capital fund is one of our major investors. And, as a government business model, made a lot of sense to kind of align ourselves with kind of the South Australian investment community. and it's also overseen by David, who is ex-CEO of Uber. So he kind of brought Uber to Australia, you know, from the first, like he launched Uber in Australia and kind of brought it to where it is, and he really understands, you know, how do you activate those local networks across the country. So that was one of the kind of strategic alliance that we formed, and the second one also with Torrance Capital. So they've got like thousands of allied health professionals and nurses across the country. So also a great network for us to kind of tap into. So yeah, those are at the moment the large investors. There's actually one large investor we expect to come through, but yeah, we'll be able to announce that when that actually happens. So they're doing their best to make it on time, Robin. I talked to you this morning, so they're actually optimistic they'll make it on time. So that's
fantastic.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. That's great to hear. And look, as how in terms of users, actually, I think one of the questions which you had previously was kind of where do you get to cash flow positivity? You've mentioned when you have over 1,000 users with the Kindship wallet, that's going to be a great position for the business because that will be providing a continuous revenue stream. How many users do you have at the moment? Obviously you've got the app which people use as a social media app to then obviously share their own lived experiences. And then you've done a survey which has kind of expressed how many people would like to use the Kindship wallet when it is available. Is that the case? Do you have about 2,500 users at the moment on the app?
Yeah, so in October we had 2,500 active parents on the app. Right. And just like with everything we do at Kindship, co-design is at the heart of everything we do. So before we even, you know, thought this might be a good idea, you know, Sandy and Steph had, you know, interviewed a lot of parents about the experiences of, you know, both plan management, self-management. And so we went to a rigorous co-design session before we got to this Kindship wallet vision. And we didn't want to base anything on assumptions. So what we've done is we've presented the Kindship wallet vision to our users on the app, and 77% of the users opted in for the waitlist. So we know that, you know, I don't know, Sandy, if you want to, or Steph, if you want to comment, because Steph, you've been the one that also kind of presenting that to the community as well within the app, like you kind of help facilitate that. What's your...
Yeah, it was a very, very interesting experience, actually. And I actually think it was quite vital for us to go through and have those conversations because, you know, obviously we have that lived experience with our own NDIS experience. And I kind of had assumed that everybody's experience was the same as mine, and it is absolutely not the case. So talking to real families and learning about, you know, the ins and outs was vital to us being able to bring that to the team and say, okay, this is what families need. These are the patterns that we're seeing, and this is what it could be reflected in the technology. So, yeah.
I just want to say as well, like, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but like so many parents have invested in us, right?
Yeah.
So that's also, you know, the $500,000 that we made, like my guesstimate would be the majority comes from parents with lived-in experience. So that is a strong validation of the importance of what we're trying to achieve here.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Conscious that we've gone over time a little bit. We do have one final question, and then we're going to close off the questions from there. But really just want to thank everybody for the questions. I know people probably have to jump off, but we are recording this session and we will send it around to you. A question here. There's a lot of criticism of the NDIS system. What happens to the business if the government does a complete overhaul of the NDIS system? Who wants to take that?
I mean, it's sorry, because I'm jumping into another meeting with one of the investors, so I'll need to leave, but I'll be really quick. It's impossible to predict, you know, what's going to happen in that sense but what we know is if we look at the current government, so they're transitioning to Salesforce. The current government also recognizes that disability doesn't go away after a year. So there's a high likelihood of plans becoming, instead of 1-year plans, they might end up being 3-year plans, which is good for our families because every single year try and prove that your child has a disability is just a horrible thing to go through. So have that less frequent, I think, is very positive for our community. And I think a lot of, to be honest, like everything else, my experience, feels almost, because there were so many rumors, right? And we've been kind of in touch with NJS and technology partners from NJS and so forth. And it almost looked like as if it's like just as a, just to get views on TV, so just get people to watch the news and so forth. So I think a lot of fear is just purely to kind of generate views, and which is a bit unfortunate, but I mean, that's my read. That if I look at the actual actions of the current government, like that's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anything else. And I don't know, Sandy, if you have. I mean, we also had actually those shorts in live on our Facebook page. What was that? Just 2 weeks before he got elected. So maybe Sandy, you can comment on that, and I'll run into my next meeting. Thank you so much, everyone.
So I look, as much as there's that bad publicity around the NDIS was Labor's baby before the Liberal government come in. I think they really want a chance to fix it. I don't see the whole system having that much of an overhaul in that period of time. What I do know is that families will require support consistently, no matter what the system looks like. And I know how well our team can pivot. So if that is necessary, like I'm actually not concerned about that, because there will be a need for a service that supports our families. So I'm quite confident in that. Did you guys want to add anything else?
Yep, you covered it perfectly.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much to everybody who's here and asked some great questions. And thanks very much to the Kindship team here as well. It's been fantastic working with you, and really exciting seeing actually even $10,000 coming into the investment offer while we're actually on the webinar itself, raising just over 528,000 now from over 390 investors. As mentioned to everybody here, I will send around the recording and also just remind you that the investment offer is closing at 10 p.m. tomorrow evening. So with that, thank you ever so much, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, Robin. Bye-bye.